On today's episode, we will cover some heavy and possibly triggering topics, including sexual assault, grooming, molestation, rape, and sexual abuse. Please continue watching with caution. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to a brand new episode of Society and Pop Culture 101. I am instructor BK,
I am Instructor Novacaine.
and on today's episode, we are going to be discussing the recent Hulu ID documentary, Quiet on Set. Now, like the disclaimer said, it was some heavy topics going on. Especially for us millennials, it was a bit triggering for a lot of us on the internet. I was live tweeting while it was going on, and things got a bit heavy on there. Um, Novocaine, what did you think? Just overall, just a quick. What was your
Like you
thoughts?
said, like you said, it's very triggering, disturbing, disappointing, a lot of anger in there. Uh, I expected the documentary to make me feel a lot of different ways, but I didn't expect it to have this much of an impact on me. So
Yeah,
we'll get into that in a little bit.
of course, of course. Let's jump right into it. Quiet on Set. Quiet on Set is a four-part docuseries that follows the trials and tribulations of some of Nickelodeon's brightest stars from the late 90s and early 2000s. For millennials, this is our golden era of kids TV. These are the stars we grew up wanting to be like. These are the stars that we wanted to meet. These are the stars we all share a mutual, genuine love for. But now we see that through all the humor, the gags, the zany antics, and the laughs, the grass was not as green as we'd imagined. There is a dark side we didn't see, a pain and a hurt that we couldn't possibly understand. In this docu-series, we find out that those stars we loved and adored were just kids like us, navigating an adult world where the protections they thought they had held little power to protect them. Instead, it was stripped away for fame and all the things that brings with it. Let's just keep it a buck here. We're African American, black. At that time, it wasn't a lot of black stars on TV. So a big chunk of the people we idolized came from all that. It came from some of the people on the Amanda show. There was some Disney stars as well, but for some of the kids that didn't have as much, Disney wasn't always a option for us because it was a premium channel. You didn't just get it with your package.
Yeah,
So
and it could have been a
those stars was
preference thing.
huge.
It could
That
have been a
that true.
preference thing. You know, some people
And
just didn't care for Disney as much as they cared for Nickelodeon. Some people
facts
didn't care for both of them and was a Cartoon Network kid. So
that came later. Well, at that point, yeah, but they didn't really have any live action black stars on Cartoon Network at the
no, they
time.
didn't have, and they didn't have any live action anything at the time.
It was it was
There
it
was
was mostly
nothing.
just
It was
bugs.
literally Cartoon Network. Literally, what it was
Yeah.
saying is what it was.
So seeing shows like all that were sketch comedy, like say Saturday Night Live, and witnessing the few black kids they have, we kind of looked at it in rose colors, because we got someone to idolize. We got our own heroes on the show, holding their own against their white counterparts, and that was big for us because we didn't see
Yeah,
a lot of that in kid form, other than what living color and some
that was
Mad
in
TV.
kid
I don't even
form.
think.
That was in kid
Yeah,
form, like you
so
said.
we
It
we
wasn't in kid
we
form.
finally got to see it for us. So it was
Mhm.
huge. It was huge, and seeing how they were treated on the show was extremely disappointing. So everybody knows these four, right? You got Leon Frierson
Mhm.
in the docu series. He was wearing a lot of tights, and for him that was triggering, right? He mentions that on the
Mhm.
show. He had the what was the super nose? I can't remember right now.
Yes, when he was supposed to be like the superhero, and the nose they had put like a prosthetic nose on him, and then put noses
Yeah,
all over his outfit, and the noses were clearly looking like penises. Yeah, that was wild.
that was really wild.
You know what's crazy is too, like a lot of the things that they had put on the docu series, either I wasn't watching all of that anymore or Nickelodeon anymore, or I just don't remember that episode because I definitely remember Leon on all of that very
Yeah,
well.
yeah, very, very funny person, by the way. And the fact
Yeah.
that we lost a lot of their bright talents as adults because they didn't want to do it anymore. That's so disappointing as well. Because Leon was mad funny. Um, Giovanni Samuels, extremely talented. She's been in so much.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely funny, and even her experience on the show because she mentioned knowing her place as if she wasn't she wasn't talented enough to be standing next to the white stars, you know,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it it came off that way, and I'm sure that's exactly how they felt because that's how they were treated.
Right.
And we know this. It's not like that's a secret in the industry. We know that a lot of times black people are not treated as well as their white stars. It still happens today. We just had the situation with Taraji J, right? Um,
Taraji J. Taraji P. Yeah. Most recently, within the last few
Taraji
weeks,
P. I'm sorry. Yeah,
last six
well,
weeks.
Taraji was having I need to be paid just
Mm-hmm.
like everybody else. I
Mm-hmm.
deserve to be paid just like everybody else. And the whole discourse online was like, what makes you think you should have the same amount of money as Brad Pitt? Like they went all the way back in her career to find a situation where they could stack her up against a white actor and tell her she was still not good enough.
Taraji P. And I actually had a whole argument with a person on internet as well. How can you not say this woman is versatile when she's literally been in every type of movie there is at this point? The only thing we haven't seen Taraji P. Henson do is be a superhero at this point. She's done
Right?
everything. Everything. So what do you mean she doesn't deserve what she's worth?
Typecasting. It's definitely typecasting with her, but that's gonna get us on a whole nother
But
situation
she's
here.
not typecasted. Because if she was typecasted, she would have never been in Hidden Figures. She would have never been
Facts.
in Benjamin Buttons.
No, I was just saying she's not typecasted, but they want her to be
They
in
want
this
her to
one
be
role.
typecasted.
They only
Yes.
see her as the actor in Baby Boy. That's how they see her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's
I agree.
clouded her entire career, which is another issue with black actors because if you see that even with Jaleel White, a lot of and the only is Circle and Sonic, as if he didn't have other shows and other movies he showed up in where he didn't play those characters. But then they tell you played out. So I hate that argument as well. Brian Hearn,
I
and this is
vaguely remember him on the show, but around this time is when I stopped watching a lot of Nickelodeon because I do believe he was there like 2002, 2003, 2004.
something like that.
Yeah, because he came in after Keenan and Kel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about Brian in the documentary was he didn't like the dares.
That
And
was
let's just be
so. That was
so.
a whole other show that they had.
No,
That's why
no, that was all. I
a
think that was
part
all
of
there
all
as
that.
well. Yeah,
Yeah, so I don't remember that at all. But from the clips they were showing of that, oh my god,
my
oh my
man's
god.
legit said he did not like the position that they were putting him in, and they kept him there, and that was an issue for anybody. And I big ups to his mom, Miss Tracy, and I said this online that I got mad respect for her because the reason he got ousted from the show was because she was fighting for him.
She was hard to deal with.
Yeah, with the quotes, right?
With the quotes, she was hard to deal with.
which is
But that was
another thing.
just a mom standing up for her child.
Absolutely. And that's
A
another
mom
thing that
that's
a lot
seeing
of
things
black
that are
people have to
weird.
deal with.
You seeing some things that are weird and you speak out about it. Now they're calling you're the weird one because you're speaking out about it.
Because she wasn't rolling with the culture. And I'm not saying all those other parents was rolling with the culture like that, but a lot of
I
them
am.
were. And when you
I am.
have so many other people saying, just let it go, or you're gonna lose your job, or your son's gonna lose their job, that's an issue. And we have to come back around to Raquel as well, because when she was on the Amanda show, she had a birthday and Dan gave her a cake. Well, he didn't give her a cake. The
The people on set.
production gave
Mhm.
her a cake. And according to Raquel, Dan came back and was like, why is her cake so big? She don't deserve that big old cake. She was not the star of the show, which is again coming back to when we was talking about Giovanni, how they see us in these little boxes. And if we stretch any part of ourselves outside that box, it's an issue. It's an issue. We see it now. If you the Marvels just came out. What happened with that? Before the movie even dropped, they were saying it was terrible because it had a black director.
Mhm.
So a black female director. So
Mhm.
it's these little things, that these micro moments where you don't see, the mainstream people don't see, and all they hear is the studio saying these people were hard to deal with and hard to work with, like Tracy, like Miss Tracy, Hearne.
Mhm.
And in reality, is as these people are fighting for equality on these sets that they deserved, because they're all new actors, young actors and actresses, and they all deserve to be treated equally. Now I
Mhm.
understand you have a star of the show, but your star still shouldn't be treated like on the just the regular everyday human nature, human rights side of things. Everybody got the same rights. Now if Amanda deserved an extra piece of cake, fine, give her an extra piece of cake. She's the star.
Right.
I
Right.
get that. But
But you can't tell somebody that they don't deserve a cake and it's their freaking birthday.
yeah, and that's wild. And especially we need to know, I need to know what the her white counterparts also got before I can make a real serious judgment on that. But not saying that she's not telling the truth. I'm not saying that at all. But for the sake of argument, sometimes to make sure that your argument is thorough, you need to know all the facts.
That is true.
Um, so I want to play a couple of clips from this, because Dan Schneider responded to a
I
few
didn't
of
watch
these
that
things.
video all the way through. Just to let you know.
That's
What you
fine.
sent me, I could not watch all of that. I just
We're gonna critique the whole video, but I would like to play just a bit of this. This is what the snippet, and how little. I'm not gonna say how little he thought of the black actors, but they all had. I don't feel like his response to them was enough. I'm gonna
he
say it like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the best way to put it right now.
I don't feel like it was enough. So here's that clip right here.
They also highlighted two black actors who said that they felt overlooked. Now, I want to be clear. I'm never going to speak on anyone else's journey. Yeah, I can talk about my experience, how my experience was with you, what I saw prior to working with you. But again, I don't want to speak on anyone's journey. I saw you be honored for diversity in your work.
Yes, and the reason for that is diversity has always been very important to me in my shows. If you go back to the very first Nickelodeon show I ever made, that's very evident, as it is in the second one, and then the first movie I ever made for Nickelodeon, which starred Kenan and Kel, and every show I did after that had a lead black actor in it. I'm very proud of that. It's very important to me. And not only am I proud that they were in my shows, I'm exceptionally proud of the achievements they've had beyond my shows, and they've gone on to bigger and better things, and that gives me a great sense of pride.
Mm-hmm. Just because you have black leads in a show does not mean that those other people's experience wasn't measuring up to theirs.
Thank you.
We're gonna talk
Thank you.
about Tebow later too, before you get on him, because I got some thoughts.
The dude that was giving an interview, right?
Yeah.
Somebody calling the Coon Clan because I don't know, like it
We
was
gonna
certain
talk about it.
questions.
We gonna get to it. We gonna get to it. Let's because we brought up the dares as well. Because we brought up the dares as well. I would also like to. Do you have anything just from what he said before we move on to this dares clip?
I know people that have biracial children and they're still freaking racist. Just because you hired some black folks doesn't mean that you believe in diversity. You just wanted some
Right.
cool points.
He definitely seems like the type.
Maybe he saw how entertainment was shifting in the 90s and we did have so many more black leads. So he wanted to jump on that, because one thing that I did realize about Dan Schneider, when it came to the business, he was serious about it. He was dead serious about it. You know? So if he sees that that show business is moving this way, of course I want to hire black actors. Of course I want to get these up and coming actors and give them a movie. And then we're going to do it. I don't even know. He's probably wasn't dealing with a sequel. Probably not. But and let's just ride this thing as long as we can.
You're not telling me that Paramount executives didn't notice what was happening on Fox. They didn't. You're not telling me they didn't notice 11 Color blowing up over there, and Martin and all those other shows. You're not telling me that. Of course they were gonna go in and get some shows. They were, and it's a slew of them, and all of them got canceled.
And then we're supposed to be the network for the kids, for the children. Why not do it for the black kids? Come on now.
Facts. Of course they said that.
Who are you trying to fool? Like, I'm not trying to be.
I don't know, but it ain't me. We just talked about this on Duckman. When we talked about Duckman a few weeks ago. It's not about cooperation. It's about corporation. What was going to get them their bottom line? Again, just like with Kaepernick, they jumped on the bandwagon because black shows was blowing up. After those black shows blew up and those networks got where they got, they dumped all the black shows. And it seems like, and I'm just speculating here because I ain't really researched it that deep, but just on some, allegedly stuff. It definitely allegedly seems like Nickelodeon kind of did the same thing. You just kind of tucked the black characters in there.
And then they was doing the wildest shit. Even when I go back and watch all that in the earlier seasons with Kenan and Kel, why was Kel cross-dressing most of the episodes?
That was in the 90s as a whole, cross-dressing was just.
Why was he cross-dressing? And this is a young boy at the time. He wasn't a man yet.
Facts.
He's a boy still. He never came out to say, "Hey, I'm bisexual, I'm homosexual," whatever the case may be. I like this. Why were they putting him in these dresses all the time with the full makeup and a wig?
Definitely some questions that need to be answered.
They had Kenan over here speaking gibberish. You remember the little when he was in the why was he in the tub?
I don't know, that there are certain things in these that I was like, as a kid, I found entertaining. I don't know if I ever found like the whole him being in the tub being funny.
I had questioned as a child, like, what is going on here? What is this shit?
Oh no, but you are dropping this S-bomb like it is Skittles right now.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I gotta edit this, man.
You're gonna have to like bleep about 4 of them drinks out.
I get it, passion though.
About 4 of them. We've said this. I don't know if I've said it since we've been society and pop culture 101. I don't know if I said it since we've been on this part of our journey, but I've said it a million times before. I could probably understand everything. I could understand just about anything, but when it comes to these kids, I cannot wrap my head around it. The way that people be treating children, the way that they treat them in show business, I can't wrap my head around it. I never have. I never will be able to. But then the only thing that makes sense is the future programming of that child, because one day that child is going to have to grow up into an adult. Now you got a screwed up adult.
Yeah, and all of them are going through something mentally, or not feeling enough in their careers. Let's move on, because I got another clip here, because you brought up what they were doing on the show, and the dares thing was a big part of the documentary.
I still do not remember this dares thing. I do not remember that at all.
Either it was at like the end of the show, because I seen a few of them at the end of the show, and some of them was online too.
Okay.
I know all the Ariana Grande stuff that was happening was online.
I definitely wasn't watching Nickelodeon when Ariana Grande.
I wasn't watching that either, but that was wild with what they were having her doing with it was a lot of suggestive stuff, y'all. Y'all just have to go back and watch it. I would encourage you to go watch it. Let's get on these dares first.
Yeah.
Seeing some of those on-air dares, seeing it now from where you are now in your life, what do you think of that?
I think that some of the on-air dares went too far. I think they pushed the envelope too far. Not all of them, not most of them, but some did.
Dan, shut the F up. You signed off for it. From what all of these people were saying, you worked so closely to the writers and the producers. You weren't just the creator.
No.
You were on set at all times. Who are you trying to fool? Why are you sitting here lying to us? If you thought that it was pushed too far, you knew then that it was pushed too far. You knew then what you were doing. You just did. It's just that you got caught.
Yeah.
It's just because you got caught. Now you're so apologetic. Shut the F up. You said I can't curse, so I'm gonna just bleep
Speaking
myself.
of, we got more of this clip.
Oh Lord!
Come up with all these ideas of dares they could do. We would give them to the network, and then they would say, tell us the ones that were okay.
Right.
Those are the ones we shot. Those are the ones that aired. At the time, I had no indication that any kid ever had a problem with them. But when I was watching the show over the past 2 nights, I now know that there were kids who did have problems with the on-air dares. And it breaks my heart. And I'm so sorry. I am so sorry to any kid who ever had to do a dare or anything that they didn't want to do or weren't comfortable doing. We went out of our way to make sure they were safe and that everything was done properly. But if a kid was scared and didn't want to do it, kids shouldn't have had to do it.
Yeah.
Period, the end.
Right.
And if I had known at the time, I would have changed it on the spot.
I find that interesting, because another part of his interview, and I'm pretty sure I clipped it up, we're going to talk about it later, he had the ability to change things on the spot. And you go ahead, get it off your chest.
Didn't we just talk about Bryan?
Which Bryan?
Bryan Hearne.
Yeah, we did.
We just talked about Bryan. He literally said while the cameras were rolling, I do not like this. I do
Several
not
times.
like this. So you telling me you watched him suffer and y'all still put it on air? Shut up. Dan. What?
Dan.
Oh God.
I don't know. I don't understand how you could be there. Like, did they not take him serious? Which brings up another issue if you wasn't taking their word serious.
There it is.
Let's talk about the female writers for the Amanda Show. Kilgen and Christy Stratton.
Mm-hmm.
Now, their experiences were a lot of male chauvinistic behavior behind the scenes. Not only that, but they also had to share one salary.
See, now that
Christy was saying at one point that Dan used to do this dare thing, and he dared her to eat 2 pints. Was it 2 pints of ice cream?
something like that, and then he would give her like $300 or $500.
Yeah, and she did it. It was
she
3,
did
I
it,
believe. She did
and
it,
she did it,
didn't receive the money. So
and never
then
received the money.
when he made another challenge in the office to a male, she ends up bringing up, "Hey, you
No,
still,
another
what about
challenge
your
to
tab?"
her.
No, it was
Another
another
challenge.
challenge. No, it
Oh,
was
and
a
then she
challenge
said
to
something
another
about put it
person.
on your tab or something. Put it on his tab.
Yeah. Something like the tab is getting big or something like that. And then Dan
Uh-huh.
basically berated her, called her to the office and gave her the business. That sounds violent. He pulled her into the office and yelled at her about how his tab is, he's always good for what he says he's going to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny in this episode recalled a moment where Christy was reading something that she wanted on the show or a script, and Dan made Christy lean over the desk and act like she was getting let's see, what's the best way I could put this, hit from behind sexually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is probably like one of the most notable parts of this whole documentary for me, because it stuck with me, because I like seeing her, how she responded to the host or the person behind the camera that was asking her questions. And once, she didn't want to talk about it, but then she says, that girl did it. She did it in the past, and that person, like, she was talking as if it wasn't her.
Yeah.
It's like she straight up dissociated from her trauma, and that happens so often. It happened, but it didn't happen to me. Or she referred to it as if it was someone else, even though it was her. And that goes back to how traumatizing, I guess, is a better word, lack of a better word, that working for them could be for women.
Mm-hmm.
And for it being children.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're a woman and you black on top of that, it's probably even like, it's so much in this documentary. Like, if you just watch it, so much stuff to pick up on that they just didn't say out loud, that they couldn't say out loud, that they weren't comfortable with saying out loud. And it's so hurtful just to see how hurt they are in these moments. They were so vulnerable. Big ups to all of the people that spoke out, because that took a lot.
That takes a lot. That takes a lot to speak out. A hell of a lot to speak out.
Man. Of course, we got words from Dan on this one as well.
Oh my God. Here we go.
Because he definitely responded to that. So we're gonna hear
Got another
what.
clip?
Yep. I got a lot of clips in this chamber today.
I guess this is just piss Nova off from BK with all these daggone Dan Schneider clips. But I'm gonna let you cook. Though.
Only because, in the interest of fairness, and I know I'm not like a traditional journalist. I didn't go to school or anything like that. And I'm just a host of a podcast. But I felt like it's fair to hear as much of both sides of this argument as you can, because you kind of have to.
Go ahead, play it.
Now, we also saw the series highlight two former writers' viewers, two women, who spoke about a wage discrepancy. Now, I know that you don't divvy out salaries. Talk to me about that part.
Well, you're correct. I have nothing to do with paying writers. I never have. I've never made a writer's deal. And of all the writers I've been in a writer's room with, I never even knew how much most of them were getting paid.
Yeah, but we saw these two women who were writers for you sharing one salary. How does that happen?
It's very simple. There's a common practice in television when hiring writers. If you have a spot for a new writer, sometimes you'll go to two writers and say, hey, if you two new writers for your first job are willing to share a salary, you can both have the job. They have the opportunity to say, yes, that sounds good, or no, no thank you. In this case, it was two women writers. I've done another show where that teaming was done with two male writers, and they split a salary. I did another show where it was a male and a female writer, and they split a salary.
And these are all first-time writers.
All first-time writers looking for their first gig.
So basically, they took advantage of first-time writers. That's what he's saying.
It
could be an option. They don't have to accept to share a salary, but since they're first-time writers and they need to get their foot in the door, we're going to take advantage of it.
That's what it sounds like, but it also sounds like, for somebody who did not know what people were making and did not deal in the salaries. He sure did know to have other examples of other people getting the salary.
How you know that if you didn't deal with them?
Hmm. That's
I know a liar when I see a
interesting.
liar. And one thing I hate is a liar, bruh. Like,
Look, it's very this entire interview with between him and Boogie is the name he goes by now. Between him and Boogie has been a
that's the
little
guy.
weird. Yeah, okay. So you know who that is, right? That's old buddy from iCarly.
I didn't. I
You didn't
kind
watch
of watched
iCarly.
iCarly with my niece, but I didn't really watch iCarly. Like, of
Yeah,
course, I know iCarly and Sam,
yeah.
but
I didn't watch it deep, but
what was his character all about? Who was he
he was the dude that worked downstairs at
at the front
the
door?
little no, not the front door, where they go to the little bar, restaurant place, whatever.
Or the little
He was
coffee
that
shop?
guy. Was it a coffee shop? That's that whatever it was, he's that guy. So he was like one of the cooler characters. A lot of people loved him, and a lot of people upset at him for doing this interview. But we're gonna get into that later because
Yeah,
we
because he's
have
shucking and jiving. That's why
because we
everybody
have
mad.
we gonna talk about him. But we have another clip about the antics in the writers' room. Here it is.
Dan talked to me about the writer's room. From what I saw, not cool.
No, and I don't mean to cut you off, but if I can cut right to the chase, let me just say, no writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room, ever, period, the end, no excuses. Most TV writers, comedy writers have been in writers' rooms and they are aware that a lot of times there are inappropriate jokes made and inappropriate topics come up. But the fact that I participated in that, especially when I was leading the room, it embarrasses me. I shouldn't have done it. In the writer's room, there's no doubt that sometimes those jokes went beyond the pale and I said things that went too far or made practical jokes that went too far. And that was wrong. And that was because, I was an inexperienced producer. I was immature. Wouldn't happen today. But I'm just really sorry it happened.
Okay. Boogie in this entire interview was getting on my nerves. I know we said we'd talk about it later, but no, forget it. Because that one scene just, oh my, not cool, man. Not cool. First of all, is that the best you can say to somebody who you watched the documentary? You probably know some of the things that happened to what's old girl that played Jeanette McCurdy, who played Sam. You probably are aware. You probably talked to her. You probably know how she felt. And the best thing you could say is, well, oh me, oh my, not cool, sir. You're gonna go in timeout. What is that? What is that?
I'm scared to even say something right now.
No, you go ahead and say it. I could just cut it off. It's bad.
Nah.
It's just watching that.
That's why it's been so hard for me to watch that interview. Dan Schneider knew exactly who to go to have this conversation about. I mean, to have this conversation with.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he didn't even try to like fight back a little bit upsets me, because just like you said, he worked with these people directly. He heard whatever was going on. He probably heard more than what they put out on the daggone documentary.
Yep.
And this is your reaction to it? I understand not getting emotional. I am an emotional being. I understand sometimes my emotional responses may not be the best. I can understand that. But not cool, man. That's it. That's all.
There's a few levels of why I feel like he was chosen. One on the show, he was probably like one of the cooler characters. Everybody loved the sixth man. He's like the Tommy of the Tommy from Power Rangers. Everybody loved Tommy. He was the sixth ranger, came through. It's kind of how I compare most characters like Boogie. He's the Urkel. he's the extra character that wasn't supposed to be cool, but it turned out to be really cool, and people just like him. So he has a lot of cachet with public opinion. So if you can get one of the coolest laid back people to come through and say, "Oh, it ain't that bad. I mean, we've seen worse, right?" and lead him throughout the interview. Hey, we're gonna talk about these women real quick, but I know you, Dan, you would never do that, right? Like,
I don't care how much you know
that's
about a
not
person.
even
There's
objective.
always a door. There's always a door that closes, and you don't know a version of that person.
Facts. You can't know everything about everyone, but you have so many people speaking out about this man. What we say, what Dom say, cousin Dom, shout out. What he say? Where there's smoke, there's Diddy. Same scenario with Dan. Same scenario. Where there's smoke.
There's Dan. And where was he at? Right there.
Man. So we gotta get into some of these other serious topics because I know all of this is serious, but we got to talk about MJ and Brandy and Jason Handy. So Brandy was a child actor. I think she was 11 at the time. She was coming in to do like a guest appearance. MJ is her mom who was telling this story, by the way. So it was what, about 2002, 2003. She was coming in for a guest spot on, I want to say, Amanda show.
I do believe it was Amanda's show.
And
But just
she
for
meets
like a
up.
guest, like you said, guest role.
She coming in with Jason Handy was there on set. He gets cool with her. Brandy goes home. Jason continues to write to her. Eventually, she goes back to her mom, say everything cool. Jason's doing this, Jason's doing that. It's all nice, all dope reaction at first, until Jason decides to expose himself and send her a video of himself, of him pleasuring himself. And she gets up, shuts down the computer, runs away. MJ sees it, goes into panic mode. So eventually Jason gets locked up.
But
He goes to jail.
don't forget, when MJ finds this out, she does not say anything yet. Not yet.
Touche. You're right, because she was what a lot of them said. We were concerned about what would happen if I made too much noise. Yep. They was worried about their child's career.
The money is not enough. Your child's protection, your child's safety, your child's mental health, it does not have a price tag on it. Like, what's wrong with these people? Are you that pressed for money that you sacrificed your child? This little innocent being that don't know nothing about this world. And you see some talent that they have, and now you want to just throw it out there, and whatever happens to them happens. What type of parent are you? What type of human are you?
I shudder to understand what in those moments could go through your mind where you're like, it'll be okay. It'll be fine. I'm not worried. Eventually they'll get what they deserve.
Nah. I've never been the type to we've had this talk personally on the BK Spades show. This is going to be the first on Society and Pop Culture 101. I've never been the type, and I never will be the type, to just sit back and let things happen. I don't care. If I see it happening to somebody on the street, just like I saw somebody getting into like a little altercation, the man and the woman, I don't care what their business is. I got to make sure that they being safe for each other. Y'all could argue, whatever. Don't hit each other. Don't put on weapons. And if I can see it, then I'm going to step in. I got to say something. I can't sit back. That's just not who I am. That's not morally correct for me, because I wouldn't want something to happen to me and people just sit back and just let it happen. I'm always stepping into something. Maybe I shouldn't, because everybody always tell me it's so dangerous. So these things. how did we get to where we are today without people walking on the wild side?
You're right.
Think about had MJ said something, the next girl that it happened to, it probably would have never happened to her.
Facts, because Jason had a lot of
Put the picture back up here.
photos.
I want to read it.
Sure.
I ain't even read it yet. We ain't even read it yet. So this is Jason Handy, freaking monster. Authorities found 10,000 child porn photos. 10,000. 10,000.
I
I
also
don't know
believe
if
he was
anybody
collecting
knows.
mementos.
I don't think if anybody understands how big the number 10,000 is, but let's just put on this perspective. Most people graduate with like maybe 300 people, maybe 500 people in their class from high school. Their whole school is maybe 2,300 people in their whole high school. So just imagine. All right. Sentenced to 6 years, released in 09.
Hold on before you go. Along with those 10,000, what I didn't put up here was he also had mementos from the girls. And if I'm
Yes,
not
the
mistaken,
bags.
MJ definitely said he had a pair of her panties as well.
A pair of her
So
panties. How he get a pair of her panties? Oh, because
the,
that was another thing. Why is he in your house, in your daughter's bedroom, and you're not in there? He talking about
it's
some
so
shit was,
many.
they was kissing each other and stuff. Excuse me?
And that's
Huh?
and that's the part that's hard to wrap my head around with this MJ Brandy situation, because I'm like, yo, first of all, there is no grown man that's gonna go through my house in the. There's no boy that's gonna come up in here and just roll through my house like it's cool. There's no girl that's gonna come through my house and just roll through my house like it's cool.
Like it's
Absolutely
cool.
not.
Especially not a grown person.
This,
Especially.
this man in his
And that
20s,
makes
you out
me,
here letting that fly.
and that just makes me believe that MJ was trying to sell her own daughter. I hate to say it like that. I don't hate to
Ooh,
say it like that. I do not hate to say it like that, because if people were allegedly, if people were selling their kids for crack back in the 80s, they would do worse
yeah,
for fame.
yeah.
Jesus Christ. He was sentenced to 6 years, released in 2009, registered sex offender in North Carolina. 2014, he was arrested on 2 charges of violating the sex offenders registry and 3 counts of indecent liberties with a child. I didn't even know that part.
This is all new information to me as well, because I don't think they covered this on the
They
documentary.
didn't. Currently, he is in Petersburg, Virginia, locked up at the Federal Correctional Institution until August 28th, 2038.
My man down for a long time, which as he should be.
As he should be. And there's something wrong with the justice system too, because why are child molesters and these rapists only being in jail for 6 years, 7 years, 9 years? Why aren't they getting death penalties, 25 years to life? What's the what? Excuse me?
I
I feel
I
like
hear this argument.
it's
I hear
you
this.
ruining a life one way or another, whether it's a murder or if you molesting a child. I feel like you ruined somebody's life one way or another.
Okay, so I hear this argument a lot, and while I do agree that something more major needs to be done, 6 years not enough time.
Mm-mm.
It if you can go to jail for stealing too much for like 6 years, then you need at least 12 to 20, 25
Yeah,
at the max, you know?
they
So
be giving drug charges longer than
yeah,
child
and
molestation.
I don't get that. They definitely deserve way more time than the 6 years or the year and a half like Brian Peck got, because he did not get enough time. Um, it's wild out here that they get so little time. Which ironically, I don't have a clip where Dan responded to that one. So let's move on to talk about Drake Bell.
Justin, go to hell. I hope you burn. I hope whatever they doing in that prison is anything is way worse than what you did to these kids out here, Justin.
Jason.
Jason, Justin, whoever you is. Oh, I'm so angry. Oh my
So
God, I'm so mad. Oh my God.
you
These
know,
are the
do you
type of
need to
people
take
you
a
just
moment?
square up with. These are the type of people you just square up with out of nowhere because I just don't understand why harm kids.
In their mind, I don't think they see them as such. Not in the way
Because they
we
sick.
see. Of course, they don't see it the way we see it. We see a child, we see a child. They see a child, they see a sexual object.
In a
I
mini
don't
version, I
know.
guess.
I don't know what clicks in a person's mind where that just happens, but it does. And it is probably like one of the scariest things to me as a parent, as an adult in the world who just genuinely want everybody to live and be happy. I don't understand how you can look at a child and just see someone you want sexually. I don't get it. It's so weird. But
Give me 2
this
minutes.
okay.
Give me 2 minutes. Because that is heavy as done. Okay.
All right. Drake Bell, his situation is one of those situations where you kind of hear rumblings that stuff happened. And we've discussed Drake Bell and some of his issues that he had in the past here, some of his recent issues in the last iteration of this show when we was the BK Spades show. So we won't be divvying into any of that right now. But Drake Bell was abused as a young star by Bryan Peck.
The monster.
And the moment on set where they asked Drake, hey, can you describe what happened to you? And Drake was like, he attempted for a second and was like, you tell me some of the most horrendous things you can come up with. And then I'll tell you if it happened to me, basically. And that was one of the moments again where I was like, damn, you know? And full disclosure here, I made sure that my daughter was in the room while we was watching this. While she didn't catch everything, because cell phone age. She definitely was in the room listening because a few weeks ago she asked me, "Hey, would you let me be a child star?" And
Wow.
and I instantly was like, "No." And she was like, "Why?" And then I went on to explain to her that one, I wouldn't be able to be in the room with you all the time. Because yes, even though I will be your parent and I could be on set, there's still going to be some things that slip by. There's still going to be some things that's out of my control. And once I see it, I'm going to raise all types of hell. And then now we both going to be offset anyway. And then this documentary, when it dropped, it was like, what did I say? This is exactly how I feel. Drake's dad was exactly how I feel. And I think his biggest issue was one, not saying nothing sooner, because again, like you said, he knew.
Drake's dad knew.
Drake's dad knew.
Drake's dad knew.
And I seen online everybody was saying he knew and he didn't do anything. He attempted. They got rid of him.
There it is. Every single time there is a group of abusers or manipulators or whatever, when there's an outsider that sees the reality of it, they will always push you out. Always, every single time.
And that's exactly what they did. And I said this on our X page. I keep saying Twitter. On our Twitter X page, that all of these abusers follow the same pattern. They follow the same pattern. And what's really heartbreaking about these patterns within this little cluster of Nickelodeon, the pattern was get in between the parents and the kids, and break up the family. We saw this happen time and time again.
What
It's
that remind you of, BK?
I don't know what is it remind me.
Slavery.
Oh, was not in the mindset of thinking slavery, but I think you might be right on that.
There it
Would
is.
you like to elaborate for the rest of the class?
When slavery was, when they were introducing slavery into America and everything, that was one thing that they wanted to do. So you would not have a strong unit, and they crippled a whole race. They separated the parents from the children as soon as they could. As soon as they saw a strength from a man, what they do? What was it called? Buck break.
Yep.
This is
And
this
that
is
was
this
some
is almost the
degrading
same
stuff.
in a different. This is almost the same in a different type of way. Every year it
Yeah.
seems like we have a 2-3 conversations where we could talk about sexual assault, child molestation, rape, whatever it is, right? When
Mm-hmm.
Drake when Drake's story came out, I remember I said, I don't care. He was caught texting young children. And you were like, but we don't know what happened with that. And I was like, it doesn't matter. He was texting them. Now I have a clearer view and a better understanding, because during that time he was never prosecuted. I mean, he had like probation or something, but he was
Yeah.
never like convicted of like actually molesting somebody. But allegedly he did try to groom this girl, allegedly. But now it makes sense because it was done to him.
Yep. And a lot of now it makes you kind of want to put in perspective of a lot of these things that these child stars was going through.
Yep.
To finish the story with Drake here and his dad, Drake's dad and mom are divorced at this point,
Mm-hmm.
separated.
Separated, going
And
through divorce.
Bryan goes in to tell him, hey, your dad's taking your money. Your dad's stealing your money.
So he
And he put
basically
that
prayed. He also prayed very, very heavily because he saw it started to crumble. The family unit starting to crumble.
yeah. And when he saw that, he went right into it. He went right for the jugular with it. And he goes, gets Drake's dad out of the picture. Drake's dad is hurt. Like this man was crying on the documentary because he knew he lost his son in that moment. He knew he was losing his son in that moment. Just like with Brian Hearne and Miss Tracy, she knew that by being the tough person in this scenario and getting him kicked off, that she was going to lose a piece of her son. And this is what happens. They go in, they dig into your family, they find that thing they can pull apart, and they push those buttons until they get in. And now they're separated and they can do whatever they want with your child. Because even though Drake's dad told the mom, hey, there's something going on with Bryan and his weird friends, they're giving Drake explicit gifts, cards and stuff, saying crazy stuff. Do not let him be alone with
Please,
Bryan Peck and his friends. And what did she
please.
do? What did she do? She let him be alone with them people.
Each
She let
time.
him be alone with them people, taking them to Disney World and stuff. Drake ends up getting a girlfriend, and the girlfriend mom is the one that figured out that something was going on because Bryan Peck, when Drake was at the girlfriend's house, Bryan Peck called this man's phone. He didn't answer several
Endless.
times, endless times.
Calling
He
the
didn't answer.
girlfriend's house?
Then he calls the girlfriend's house. Drake answers the phone, tells him, hey, I'm with my girlfriend, hangs up the phone because he's begging him to come out with him to go to Disney World. And then Drake mom's pull him into the kitchen and say, yo, what's going on? I know what this looked like. Like, I understand what's going on. Let's get you some help. Then he got the help he needed. And then after he got the help he needed, when he goes to court for Bryan.
Wait, before he went to court for Bryan, because they didn't know yet. And
Yeah.
he spazzed because
Oh, yeah,
Bryan was
you're
still
right.
trying to push up on him.
Yeah.
And then he spazzed.
And
then
then
that's when it all came out.
Because they did the
And
investigation
then,
and stuff.
And then they did an investigation, and then they went to court. What you about to say about the courthouse?
You know what? I'm not even gonna say it. I'm gonna let our friend Dan said.
Oh, hell.
Child. The darkest part of this series discuss child predators. Now, I want to make sure that we clear a couple of things up.
Okay.
Bryan Peck was not hired by you.
No, I did not hire Bryan Peck.
This was a Tolan Robbins production?
Yeah. And when Drake and I talked and he told me what had happened, I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career thus far. And I told him, I'm here for you. What do you need?
You know, I'm gonna be honest, just to say, I actually believe him at that point, though.
At this point.
Yes, about Drake, because Drake was his star. So
Drake was the star. Drake was the star, and Drake was on the up and ups.
he was.
Which Drake mentioned in the show that we watched last night. And next, I heard that he went to court when this guy was being tried, Peck. And when Drake walked in, he saw 50 people sitting on the side of the courtroom supporting Peck. A lot of them pretty famous.
One of the names was Marsden, the dude that was in the the Sonic movie here recently.
In the Sonic movie recently.
Yeah, the dude that plays the human counterpart to Sonic, Marsden.
Did like the sort of like his dad, sort of kind of the one that's with the girl, the one that has the girlfriend.
Yeah,
that is him.
Yeah, and that's the part that disappointed me, man. I'm gonna tell you his first name real quick.
You know who else was on there?
Who else is on that list?
Eric Matthews from Boy Meets World.
Yeah. I also read before this documentary came out that a lot of these people didn't know the extent in which he was going to court, and they just wrote these characters letters. But I'm like, how did you not know?
How could you not know?
James
How
Morrison.
could you not know? And then the lady even said what she said about he had to be pushed to be tempted. How is a child tempting you? Excuse me?
Again, that's another weird statement that was made by some adults in the room. Like, the man was like 12, 13, 14, something like that.
He was 15 when they finally went to court. Well, no, 15. I'm sorry. He was 15 when they was doing Drake and Josh. So all of this was happening during that time. So he was 15 when the situation first happened. 15, a child. That's not even the age of consent nowhere in America.
And you had the audacity to say something like that.
Even more disappointing, 41 of those people wrote letters for Peck, character letters, praising him for who he was and asking for leniency. And they knew that he was guilty. They knew he had confessed to some degree, and they still did this. That's baffling that adults would do that.
Yeah. Say it again, man.
I don't know if people know this, but Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, Dan, I'm not good with words like you are. And would you help me with my speech for the judge? And I said, of course. And I did. And he ended up going to prison and serving his time. And yeah, that was probably the darkest part of my career. And here's the kicker that I really don't get. After he got out of prison and was, to my knowledge, a registered sex offender, he was hired on a Disney Channel show.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I don't understand.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, man. Are you okay? You want to take a minute?
Yeah, I'm all right. Let's keep going.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Boogie, shut up, Boogie.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
He may or may not be telling the truth when it comes to Bryan Peck. Maybe. But he did make a valid point here. How he get convicted? First of all, wasn't he also convicted before Nickelodeon hired him? Or he got caught up with something or something? Maybe he just got caught up with something. Yeah. But Bryan Peck was on all that as Pickle Boy. Pickle Boy was on there since like season 1, season 2. Because I remember, I definitely remember Pickle Boy. 2, when I look back on it, because as a kid, you know, maybe I just didn't pay attention all the way because I had my child eyes. But when I rewatched it, I'm like, that's a grown man, and they calling him a boy. And why he got pickles? Yeah.
Come on now.
That doesn't seem weird.
You know, kid shows have a very weird relationship with phallics.
Phallic objects. Yes, phallic objects. They do. And I don't understand. And it's weird. It's very freaking weird to me. He may or may not knew what Bryan was doing, but at the same time, somebody knew.
Of course.
One thing that stuck out to me with the whole Bryan Peck issue, this man was friends with John Wayne Gacy, a serial killer.
And was proud of it.
There's always red flags to every situation. I don't care what it is. It could be your job, your love life, anything.
Yep.
How did this huge detail about a person not stick out to somebody?
Bryan Peck, just to wrap this up, Bryan Peck, I think he got 16 months for 2 counts.
16 months. And did you see what he did to this man? I'm sorry, at the time he was a boy. You saw all of the court documents that came up on that daggone thing. I instantly shed tears. Yeah, let's blame the parents, but there are still sick abusers out here. Why are you that sick? Of course.
But it all works together. It all works together.
It's sad because with like these type of cases, it's almost always something happened to them when they were children. So they think it messes up their chemistry.
Yep. I think it goes hand in hand. Parental lack of morals allows people to come in and manipulate what you're building. If you're not, you have to be vigilant as a parent. Like, you have to be there. You have to always know. And you are going to miss stuff. There's no way you can know everything. But make sure you're there for the big stuff. Make sure you're asking questions. Don't be afraid of your kids. Even I have to be like, I got to go in here and say something that's going to mess up the mood of my child today. But I got to do it. That's what I got to do as a parent. I got to do what I got to do as a parent. Josh Peck. A lot of people was upset at Josh, because they were like, where's Josh? They were jerking Josh together. Josh should be here saying something. First of all, I feel like Josh is like I am. If there are birthdays or something's happened to a friend of mine, you're not finna catch me. I mean, I say happy birthday on the page, but if it was something serious going on with a friend of mine, they were hurting or they posted something that happened to them, I'm not finna come through that comment section and say, hey, and give them a whole message of how I feel. I'm gonna come to them direct. Novacaine can attest to this. I will drop in your inbox whatever you post on your timeline. I will drop in your inbox and say, "Hey, you good? You okay? Hey, if you need me, I'm right here. You can talk to me whenever." And I feel like Josh is like that as well. So this is what he said. I finished the Quiet on the Set documentary. He posted this to his Instagram, and took a few days to process it. I reached out to Drake privately, but want to give my support for the survivors who were brave enough to share their stories of emotional and physical abuse on Nickelodeon sets with the world.
Wait, who said this?
Josh Peck.
Oh, no relation, guys. No relation to Bryan Peck.
No. I at first I was like, "Yo, is he related?" But
I definitely had to search it real quick, real quick.
Yeah, Josh from Drake and Josh. So and Drake also came out and corroborated that he did talk to him and he's fine. Just like he don't have any ill feelings for Dan Schneider because apparently what was going on with other people with Dan wasn't his experience. And I haven't seen him say, "Hey, everybody else is
It didn't
tripping. Dan is
happen.
not
He
like
never
that."
said it never happened.
He never
He
said that
never said
either.
it never happened.
But the way everybody else is speaking out against Dan, he didn't seem to have that type of relationship with him. We actually are running low on time here, but I wanted to talk about the whole two more things with Dan, and then we can boost off the adult jokes thing. I'm gonna play this clip.
But currently, where we are,
Uh-huh.
some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
Every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience because kids thought they were funny and only funny. Okay? Now we have some adults looking back at them 20 years later through their lens, and they're looking at them and they're saying, oh, I don't think that's appropriate for a kid show. And I have no problem with that. If that's how anyone feels, let's cut those jokes out of the show, just like I would have done 20 years ago or 25 years ago.
Again, for a person who don't have a lot of power, he definitely still has a lot of power. That's number one.
Exactly.
Number two, that's not what your writer said. They said you were definitely Penelope Taint. Penelope Taint is named after from the sexual body part underneath between the sexual body part and your anus. That little section right there is called the taint. You named the child Penelope Taint, and then allegedly, according to your writers, you told them not to say anything. So it's kind of contradictory, possibly.
It's contradictory. And then the fact, and not even just Taint. Let's talk about Penelope too. Come on now. Penelope.
Yeah, the combination of that was just...
The combination is just... And then as children, we're not going to think about it, because first of all, we don't, as a child, I had no clue what a taint was.
I didn't even know her name was Taint. I thought it was Tate, Tate.
Oh.
But that's not her name.
It's not her name.
Taint. It's definitely Taint.
It's definitely Taint.
And he told the people not to say anything. Like,
Dan, okay.
I'm gonna move on.
The thought process from the series is you had the power to just write a joke, and no matter what, it's going on TV. You just had that type of power. Is that true?
The notion that I had the power to just produce whatever I wanted and have it air is completely false. And by the way, approval at every stage, really. Okay. And I'm talking about wardrobe. I'm talking about makeup, sound, sets, dialogue, jokes, everything.
Now, when you say approval, these obviously that's a hierarchy, not your colleagues or people in the room. Okay.
No, not my colleagues. No, these are my bosses. Bosses, and then their bosses, and then their bosses. And we're also shooting it in front of all sorts of adults and caregivers and the set teacher and the families. Everybody's watching it. And if anybody had said anything, hey, we don't like that, that's not appropriate, then it would have been cut out.
But there was times when people said it was inappropriate and he still kept it.
But it wasn't enough people speaking out. And this is how the system works as a whole. A few people can speak out, and no changes will be made. But once everybody speak out together, that's where the change comes in. Now, Dan goes on to actually make an apology. He also addressed the massages, and this is my last clip for today.
I did not see him address these massages. Go ahead and play that. I got to see this.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position. It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable. So I owe them an apology as well.
Apologies all around.
Boogie. And shut up, Dan.
Boogie is getting on everybody's nerves.
The only reason why he's apologizing for those massages is because he thought he probably still be working with Nickelodeon to this day, and they let him go in 2018. And I feel like the only reason why they let him go in 2018 was because that was the height of the Me Too era.
No, that's exactly the only reason they let him go. Because when you're making money for the company, why would you let go of your cash cows? That's
and
the
that was
same
like
reason.
That was like the third investigation that they put on him. What was their names? Christy.
They put their jobs on the line. It was
They put their jobs on the line.
Jenny and Christy.
Jenny. And Christy.
Dang, I just saw her.
Kilgen.
Jenny
And Stratton?
Kilgen and Christy Stratton. Yes.
Okay. When they had said something, allegedly there was supposed to be an investigation going on. Then allegedly it was supposed to be an investigation going on after the massages the second time. Yep. And then they did that third investigation when they let him go finally.
I just found out. Well,
it took them 20 years.
Yep. Their money.
I would love to hear more from these bigger stars that worked closely to Dan, because there's a lot of pieces that are missing here from the show, the docuseries, from all of this research. They have not pinpointed exactly what, if he had any doing with like child molestation or anything like that. But what we do know, he's a creep. He took advantage of the female co-writers, the female staff.
Yep.
There was like a makeup artist or a costume designer that was on the, they never showed her face, never said her name. They just put like costume designer quote with quotes around it. And when she finally said something during the Me Too era, that's when he lost his job. How many other women? So that happened 2018, 2017, 2018.
Don't forget Christy, the kids was also giving massages too.
And the kids was giving massages. They even said that he would disappear with Amanda for hours.
And I think
they thought none of us were going to pay attention to that, but they said it and then they moved on from it.
That's because a lot of this stuff with him is all allegedly.
It's
all allegedly.
They haven't
not all,
pinpointed. And that's sad, because I don't care how much power a person can have. History has shown that you can always take it down.
Yep.
Then,
but not unless everybody works together.
I hope you never get another job in child entertainment. I don't care how many shows you have produced. I don't care what you have created for the culture of children culture, but you have also made them feel very unsafe. You did not look out for these kids. You did not really care about these kids. You did it for yourself. You found out something that you were good at, and you took advantage. Go to hell, Dan. On the highway.
I ain't gonna say.
No snake way, though.
I ain't gonna say go to hell. But whatever's going on with you, man, I hope you find I hope you found Jesus and all that, man. Because it's time for you. You gotta do something about that, bro.
He don't believe in Jesus. I don't think he believes in no God.
Probably don't. But
those type of people don't believe in a higher power. They believe in themselves.
That's true. Well, I pray you find him. And we're going to leave the closing statement to what you just said. All right. Let's close this thing out. All right, class. Thank you for sitting in the lesson for Society and Pop Culture 101. I have been the instructor, BK.
I'm instructor Novacaine. Do not forget to cite your sources.
And make sure you like, share, and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this show right now. And Dan, we know you didn't address them feet, bruh. We know.
He never said nothing about them feet.
He never said nothing about them feet.
He never said nothing about them feet.
Not a thing. All right, y'all. We out. Thanks for listening.